Welcome back to another LP Gallery tutorial. Today, we are going to be formatting a document using LibreOffice Writer, and we're going to do it with style by using styles. Now, if you're sitting on the fence about using styles, that's not your thing. We're going to show you why it's important to use styles. Now, this is a small document, but even in a small document, style formatting is very important. It does two things for you. It makes your formatting quick and easy, plus it allows you to make a global change to your formatting very quickly. Okay, so in this document, we're using a Times New Roman font, and it's not all that interesting looking. So we want to really spruce this up. So we want to change the body here to a different font. We want to add bullets, and we're also going to add pictures. So we're going to take this dull looking document, and we're going to turn it into something like this. So we're going to use a Verdana font for our body. We're going to use proper heading styles, as you see here. We're going to use proper bullet styles, and we're going to insert pictures in this document with a nice border around them. So we're going to be using styles, but we're also going to be color coordinating with styles. That means I want this to be a really cohesive looking formatted document. So if you look at the bullets, you notice they're a nice dark blue. If you look at the border of the picture, same dark blue. And even in the headings here, they're the same dark blue. So not only are we going to format with styles, but we're going to color coordinate our document, because I think it looks a little nicer when it's color coordinated. So let's take a print preview of this. So we're going to have 5 pages when we're done. Now, even viewing this through the print preview where the pages are shrunk, you can still see a very consistent formatting in the document. So you can see the headings are all the same. You can see the bullets are all the same. And even though the pictures are all different sizes, you can see that the formatting on the pictures is all the same. That's what styles do. They keep a consistency in the formatting of the document, which is very important. So let's get started. Now, the first thing you'll notice is that I'm working with the formatting marks turned on. That's this button right here. So I can turn them off and the page will look like this. But it's very hard to work on formatting a document if you don't have your formatting marks turned on. They help to tell you what's going on in the document. As an example, let's go back down to here and let's take a look at this page. So if you're a person who doesn't work with the formatting marks, or you didn't even know that they existed, you might look at your document and say, why isn't this at the top right here where it's supposed to be? These 2 lines here indicate the top. So why isn't that at the top? Now you could scratch your head and try to figure this out, or you can turn on the formatting marks and notice that there's an extra enter right above it. That's why there's that big blank space, and all you have to do is backspace it out. Okay, so that's one thing formatting marks do, is they tell you what's going on, where your enters are. So if you made too many enters, or they're inconsistent, or in the case like this, you have a blank space right above your text, it'll tell you why. Okay, so let's talk about this. The blue mark here is referred to as a paragraph mark, or more specifically, the end of paragraph mark. So that means that's where you hit the enter. So every time you hit the enter and you have your formatting styles turned on, you're going to see this. So this is not a line, this is a paragraph. This is not a blank line or a blank space, it is an empty paragraph. This is a paragraph, this is a paragraph, and this is a paragraph. Wherever you see that blue paragraph mark, that is where you hit the enter. That is the end of the paragraph. Now, next thing you're going to see is a little dot between the words, a little blue dot. Those represent your spaces. So every time you hit the space bar, you're going to see one of those between the words. Now, this is going to be particularly important when typing sentences. So after you type a sentence, you hit a period. How many spaces do you put? 1 or 2? So if you're a person who puts 1, you want to be consistent. Now, I'm going to click in the front of this W. I'm going to put an extra space. Now, if I don't have my formatting marks turned on, it's hard to tell that there's 2 spaces there. Now, if you don't work with formatting marks, you could be very inconsistent in how you start your sentences. So some of them can start with 1 space, some can start with 2 spaces. And if you've done that throughout the document, that is very inconsistent formatting. Whoever you're setting this document to may be a person who actually works with formatting marks. So when their marks are turned on, they can start reading this and see 2 spaces, 1 spaces, 2 spaces, 1 spaces. They will see an inconsistency in the formatting. That means it has to be fixed. So either you got to put 2 spaces, or you're going to have to backspace it out to 1 space. So somebody can always see that with the formatting marks. So the last formatting mark that we're going to look at is the tab key. So every time you hit the tab key, you're going to see an arrow. So it tells you how many times you hit the tab key. Now again, if your formatting marks are turned off, and this is not your document, and you're working on it, and you go from here, and you just go down, you go, wait a minute, why is my cursor there? It should be sitting here. What's going on here? Hard to tell until you turn your formatting marks on. Oh, they hit the tab key multiple times, so just backspace those out. So again, with the formatting marks turned on, you will see any inconsistencies in the formatting with spaces, and that will help you and tell you what to do to get rid of that. So I'm going to keep my formatting marks turned on. I know some of you are going to be kind of bothered by that, but I highly recommend it. And if it really bothers you when you work on your documents, turn them on and then format your document, then turn them off, do whatever you want, but go back to them, turn on, so you can make sure that you have a consistency, particularly in your spacing. Let's move on to the next thing. The first thing I want to change are my paragraphs. I want to change them from the Times Roman font to the Verdana font. So I'm going to use the style for that. Now you might think that I'd be using the default paragraph style because that's what's selected. And if you look at the style panel, you can see it's blue. So clearly these must be based on the default paragraph style. That's partly true. Now the default paragraph style controls all the styles you see here. So if I hit that little minus, you'll see they all collapse underneath it. So if you want a global change for all of these, that's what this is for. But it's not actually meant for you to change your paragraphs. There's another style designed for that, and that is the text body style. So this is really what you use to change your paragraphs, not this. Now I'm going to show you the difference between the default paragraph style and the text body style. So if I right click here and go to modify, and we go to indent and spacing, and we look at the spacing below paragraph, you'll see that there's nothing there. It's all zeros. I'm going to cancel that, and we'll do the same with text body. So I'm going to right click, modify, and again, we're on indent and spacing. We look at spacing below paragraph, and you'll see that it says 0.08. So this style builds in space below each and every paragraph. So you might say, what's the purpose of that? Well, let's look at this document. This document is typed in the old-fashioned way. That's when you hit the enter key twice. So you can see somebody typed here. They hit the enter to put a blank line there. Then they hit the enter to start another paragraph. So in fact, in this document, they hit the enter key twice. Now that's not actually correct. You should only have to hit the enter key once. So how do you do that? Well, you build the space in below the paragraphs. And then if you build space below the paragraphs, they will be separated by space. It will look like an enter, but it will not be an enter. So technically, you're only supposed to hit the enter key once, not twice. So we're going to have that pre-built space into our paragraphs, and that means we're going to have to remove these empty paragraphs. If you have a large document and somebody's typed the old-fashioned way and you got all these extra enters in there, I'm going to show you a method that's so quick, it's going to get rid of all of them in just a split second. So we'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so we're going to modify the text body to go from Times Roman to Verdana. Now, before I do that, I want to do a print preview. And you'll notice that we only have 3 pages here. That's going to be important for the next thing. Okay, so I'm going to right click on my text body, modify. I'm going to go to my font. I'm going to choose Verdana. And we'll leave it at 12 point, just like the Times Roman was. We're going to say OK. So the text body has now been set to Verdana, and it's at 12 point. Okay, so now I have to select all my paragraphs. If I click on a paragraph and apply the text body, it'll only apply to that one paragraph. So I have to select all my paragraphs because they're all typed already. Now I'm going to Control A, that selects all of them. I'm going to double click, and now we have Verdana at 12 point. Now what I want to do is go to my print preview, and we're going to scroll up, and you can see we now have 5 pages, where we originally had only 3 pages. So now we have 5, and we're going to talk about that. So why do we have 5 pages when we used 2 fonts that are exactly the same size, 12 point? Now I'm going to show you how that actually works. Okay, let's see if we can make font sizes a little more clear. Okay, here we have some headings. This one is using a Times Roman 12 point. This one is using Verdana 12 point, and this one is using Freestyle Script 12 point. So they're all 12 point, but they don't look the same size. And that's because this is how they measure font sizes. They measure from what we call the ascender, and that would be like a letter H, the top of the letter H, to the descender. Descender would be like the Y or the P's. So the vertical height from the top of the H to the bottom of the Y is 12 point. And it's the same here to here as it is here to here. They're exactly the same. Now I'm going to show you that with this one here. So I've got this text here, the script text, in a text box so I can move it. So if I just line it up here and I put the descenders together, you'll see they're exactly the same height. So that's 12 point there. And if I do the same thing here, you'll see again they're exactly the same height. So again, it's measured vertically. What they don't measure is the horizontal. Okay, so what happens there? What's not measured in the font size is what we call the X height. The X height is the lowercase letters that don't have a sender or a descender. That would be like the OR, the IS, okay? You can see that this has a very tall X height. If we look here, it's not as tall, and definitely if you look here, it's very short. X heights aren't really included in the font size, so you can see that Verdana has a very large X height for its letters. And when you have a very large X height, that generally means the letters are much wider, and you can clearly see that here. So the Verdana line is much larger than Times Roman and the script font. So again, they don't measure the X height, so the font size is only concerned with the vertical height, not the horizontal width. Width-wise, they could be all very different, as you see here. Now what I'm going to do is just take this. So here I've got the Verdana font in a text box, and I wrapped it. I've done the same thing here. So if I put them on top of each other and line them up, you can see they've got the same spacing between the lines. So again, they're still 12 point. Now the last thing I want to show you is this one here. So this is the heading. It's still in the Verdana font, but I reduced it down to 10. So instead of being 12, it's now 10. Now I'm going to line it up. And you can see when I line it up that the X heights are almost identical. So a 10 point Verdana has the same X height in letters as a 12 point Times New Roman. But the Verdana has the added benefit that every letter is still a little bit wider than Times New Roman. So I can reduce the font in Verdana and still get the same visual read as a 12 point Times New Roman. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stick to Verdana and we're going to reduce the font to 10. Okay, so once again, we're going to right click on our text body, modify, and we're going to go down to 10. We're going to say apply. Now remember, all our body paragraphs are now set to Verdana, so we can just click apply and they instantly change. We're going to say okay, and I'm going to do a print preview, and you can see we're almost down to 3 pages. We got 4 because of those extra enters in there. So we have to get rid of those extra enters. Okay, so now we have to get rid of those extra enters to get rid of those extra spaces. So I'm going to show you a little code that does this for you. So to do that, we're going to go to our Find and Replace. And we're going to turn this on, called Regular Expressions. What we're looking for is an actual code that represents the empty space. So we're not looking for bold, italic, or font. So I'm going to show you the code that LibreOffice Writer uses to look for empty paragraphs. Okay, so it is a code. So we need to start with what's called a caret. A caret is a character that's above your number 6. So you hold the shift, you click number 6, and it looks like that. And then we have to add one more character, and that's the $sign. Okay, so that is the code used for LibreOffice Writer to look for empty paragraphs, but you have to make sure you have your regular expressions turned on. That means you're looking for more code rather than bold, italic, or font or something like that. So LibreOffice website has a whole list of these kind of codes you can use if you're looking for certain things. Okay, so just to show you how it's going to work, I'm going to click on Find Next, and you can see it's jumped onto that one. I go Find Next, it'll keep finding them. Now I don't want the Find and Replace just to find them for me. I want them to replace them. So where it says replace, I don't have to put anything in there. So it's going to look in the replace box and see nothing in it. It'll just delete it. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to click to replace, and it'll replace that one. I'm going to click to replace that one, and I'll just say replace all. And it's all done now. Okay, so it's got rid of a whole bunch. There's 26 of them got rid of. Let's close that. Now you can see that we have still a little bit of spacing below the paragraphs, and that's that below paragraph spacing. Okay, so I think I want to increase that just a tiny bit. So I'm going to go to my text body. I'm going to right click, modify, go to my indented spacing, and maybe I'll just take it up to about 12. Say OK. And now we have a little more space. So you can clearly see we don't need extra enters for paragraph spacing. Okay, the next thing I like to do is format my headings. So we'll start off with this one. Now, a common mistake people do is think that they have to highlight the whole paragraph. You don't. A heading is under the paragraph style. So that means it is a paragraph. So all you have to do is click anywhere in the paragraph. Remember, this is still a paragraph. So you click anywhere there, and that will be turned into heading. Now, just to show you that, I'm going to click actually in this big paragraph. I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter where you click as long as you're in the paragraph, and you don't have to highlight. So I'm going to open my heading. I'm going to double click on heading 1, and you'll see the whole thing got turned into heading 1. No matter where I click, it applies to the whole paragraph. Okay, so all I have to do is click anywhere here, and I'm going to double click, make that a heading 1. That one's done. So the rest of the headings are subheadings, so they'll be heading 2. So here's one, and that'll be heading 2. Now here's another one. That's a heading 2. And you can see how fast this is going. Here's another one. And another one. And we got the last one. Okay, so there's our headings. So let's do a print preview. Let's see how it looks. Okay, so already we can see some consistency in the formatting. The body's all the same, and we can see the headings are the same. Now the next thing I'd like to do is show you another reason why we like to use styles. So I'm going to change the heading 2 styles, and I'm going to make them a color. So I'm going to click on my heading 2. So here it is, heading 2 style. I'm going to right click, modify. We're going to go to font effects, and I'm going to choose this dark blue color. Click that. Say OK, and if I scroll down, they're all changed. Okay, so you can see that all the heading 2s have changed instantly. Now we only have a small document. If that was a 100-page document that had 40 heading 2 styles in it, they're all done instantly. Okay, and if you send it to somebody for their approval and they want a color change, maybe they wanted a font change, it doesn't matter. Once you open the style, it's just a couple of seconds to get all the changes done. Again, whether you have 3 pages, 30 pages, or 300 pages. Okay, now that we've got our heading 2 style all set and formatted, it's time to create our bullet list style. So we do have 3 sets of bullets that we want to apply here. Now, I'm not going to go and use the bullet list button, okay, for 2 very good reasons. Number 1, if I select my text and apply the bullet, no problem, I can do that. I only have 3 pages, it's not a big deal. But if I'm working on a large document, let's say has 100 pages with many bullet lists, then if I should decide at a future time to change my characters, let's say I did the circles originally, and then I decided later on to go to squares. Well, now I'm going to have to go to every bullet list separately and change them to the squares. So if I have a lot of bullet lists, that's a lot of wasted time. But if I create a bullet list style, then just like with the heading 2, all I have to do is open the style and make the change, and all the bullet lists based on that style will change instantly. Now, I also want to change my bullet character to blue to match my heading 2 style. So if I go to my more bullets, there's no way that I can see I can change this to blue unless I use an image, which I don't want to do. I want a blue to match my heading 2. There's no way to apply a color through here. So again, the color has to be applied through a style. So that's 2 reasons why we don't want to use the bullet button. Okay, now to apply the blue color, we have to actually create what's called a character style. A character style is applied only to the text that you select. So it's right here. It's the second button. It's called character style. So I'll just give you a demonstration of how that works. If I take my cursor and I put it right in the word original right here, and I go down here to strong emphasis and I double click, you'll see that I just bolded the word original. Again, a character style is not a paragraph style. It applies only to the text that you highlight. Now, if If I were to click on the word original, drag halfway to the word demolish here, and do that again, you'll see that I only bolded the text that was highlighted. So the other text did not get bolded. So again, a character style is very unique in that you have to select the text and apply the style. Now when it comes to the bullet, it's going to be attached to the bullet character. So that means the color will only apply to the bullet character, not the bullet character and the text with the bullet. Okay, so let's take a look at the character style panel. So at the top we have the default character style, and we even have a bullet style. So I'm going to right click on this one and take a look at it. So I'm going to right click, say new, and I'm going to go to the font. So the default character style is using a Times New Roman regular 12 point and no color. So I'm going to right click on the bullet and say new, and the bullet is using the open symbol and no color. Now the open symbol is just a character set of all kinds of symbols you can use for your bullets. Now technically for our purposes it doesn't matter which font you use, because when we actually create the bullet list style, we're going to choose our own bullet, and if we choose a bullet from, let's say, Webdings or Wingdings, that font will override this font. So all that will be taken from this is the style, whatever you chose here, the font, and the color. So again, it doesn't matter which font you choose for just a bullet character. The only times it's going to matter is if you plan to use that style and apply it to regular text. Then whatever font you chose here will be part of the style. And if you highlight the text and apply that style, whatever font you have will be changed to whatever font you chose here. So that's the only time the font really plays an importance, is if you're going to apply that style to other text. In our case, it's only going to be applied to the bullet. So again, it doesn't matter which font you chose here. Now I'm going to stick to the open symbol because when I actually create my bullet list, I'm actually going to use that font. Okay, so we have a regular 12 point. We're going to go to font effects. I'm going to choose my color. I'm going to choose this blue color right here. And I'm going to go to my organizer. I'm going to call this just blue. And it's going to inherit from the bullets. So it's going to be sublist under the bullets. So I'm going to say OK. And you can see that there. Now I kind of like that because sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 different colors for my bullets. And if I keep them under the bullet list, it's easier to find. Okay, so I like that. It looks pretty good. Okay, so all we've done right now is define the bullet color. We have not created the bullet list. Now we go to the next step. Okay, now that we have our character style done, let's go choose our bullet list style. Okay, so we're going to go to the bullet list. That's the 5th button on the style button. We're going to give that a click. We have some pre-made bullet list styles. We don't want any of those. We're going to create our own. So I'm going to just right click at the bottom here, say new, and the numbering style box pops open. So I'm going to just call this blue bullet. Okay, now we have a bullet tab. I'm not going to use these. I'm going to pick my own. So I'm going to go right to customize. Okay, so we have a bunch of levels of bullets we can create. Right now we're working with level 1. So you can see it says here that this is a bullet. If I click down here, we could also make numbers, but we're looking for bullets. Okay, now the character, I'm going to click on this. It takes us to our open symbol. I'm going to scroll down, and I think I'm going to use a square. So I'm going to use this square. I'm going to say OK. Now I could use Wingdings, Webdings, whatever you like. Okay, now under character style, this is where we get to determine the color. Now you see it's called bullets. That was the character style bullet. That was there, the default. Now we made one called blue. So if I click this drop down list, there it is. It's called blue. I give it a click. So this is why the blue color will only affect the bullet character and not the corresponding text, because this is referencing the bullet only. Now, since I'm in this box, I might as well create a level 2 and a level 3 bullet, just in case at some future date, maybe I'm working on this document and I'm expanding it, I might want to include a 2nd or 3rd level. So while I'm here, I'm going to click level number 2. I'm going to go to select, and let's see, maybe I'll make that a triangle, say OK. And I'd like that to be blue, so character style, I click here, and I want that to be blue. Looks pretty good. And I'm going to go to level 3, and I'm going to choose a character there. Let's see, maybe I'll just make that like a half circle like this. Say OK. And of course I want that to be blue, so I'm going to click here, go to blue. Okay, that's perfect. Now I'm just going to look at the position. Okay, so number 1, these are the default positions for number 1. So you can see we're aligned at 0.25. Numbering line is left. We're using a tab stop. So the tab stop is at 0.5 and the indent is at 0.5. So these have to be the same. This indent here represents multiple lines. So if you're creating a bullet that uses multiple lines, you obviously want the lines to all line up. So that's what that means. Okay, if we look at number 2, we can see we're moving a little more to the right. And if you go to number 3, of course, we're moving more to the right. So that's what you would expect if you're doing nested bullets. Okay, it looks perfect. And let's go back to customize. Everything looks really good. And if we look over here, we can definitely see that. So you have our level 1, level 2, level 3. So you can see we have the square, the triangle, and the half circle. Okay, let's click on the OK. Now let's try it out. So I'm going to highlight these lines. And here's my blue bullet. I'm going to double click, and there they are. Now, if I go here and I just tab for a nested bullet, that's a second level, I get the triangle. And if I tab again, I get the half circle. Okay, now if I shift tab, I go backwards. Okay, so that's how we create a blue bullet. Okay, so we have to create the character style and attach it to a bullet list style. Now, the only problem here is we have a little too much space between the bullets. So LibreOffice Writer doesn't modify the paragraph spacing in bullets, okay? So this is something that you have to do. Now this is way too much spacing between the bullets. They almost look like they're separate entities when they're actually supposed to be a related list of things. So what I'd like to do is reduce the space between the bullets. And how we do that is we modify the space below. So that means we have to create a new paragraph style and tie it to the bullet list, which is very easy, okay? So let's go back to our styles here. We're going to our paragraph style. So what I'm going to do is just right click on the text body, say new, and I'm going to call this blue bullet. And I'm going to go to indent and spacing. Okay, and you can see below paragraph, there it is. So that's too much. I'm going to take it down, maybe about a 6. All I've done is created a paragraph style that reduces the below paragraph spacing by 6. What I need to do is tell the style that it's supposed to be a bullet list style. And I do that by going to outline and number. So I click there and it says, what numbering style do you want to use? So I click the drop down arrow and there it is, our blue bullet. This is from our list right here. It's from this list right here. So we choose blue bullet and it's going to create our blue bullets with our 3 levels. And we're going to say, okay. Now I'm going to select these. I'm going to turn the bullets off just so you can see how they work. Okay, now I'm going to highlight them again. And we double click in blue bullets, and there it is, with the reduced spacing. Now you'll notice that reduced spacing everywhere, including the last bullet. Okay, now the last bullet should keep that spacing because it needs the space between it and the next paragraph. So that means we have to create another paragraph style, and all we have to do is just change the below spacing. So what I'm going to do is right click on my blue bullet and say new. Now, because I'm right clicking on the blue bullet, it's going to be a part of the blue bullet. So if I go new, you can see that it's going to inherit all the styles from the blue bullet. So I'm going to call this blue bullet last. And all I have to do is go to my indent and spacing, and I'm going to put this back up to what it was, 12. And that looks pretty good. Now I don't have to change anything else. So if I go to outline and numbering, the numbering style is blue bullet because it's based on the original blue bullet. Say okay. Now I click on this last bullet and there's my little plus. I click that. I just double click and we have the spacing back in there. And that's all you have to do. Now you could also tie your blue bullets to your list. You have list right here. So you can see you have list 1, continued, and start. You could also tie it to there. But I think it's a lot easier just to make your own paragraph styles. Okay, that list is done. So I'm going to go to this one. And once again, double click blue bullet and we click the last one. And we do the blue bullet last. Perfect. And we do the last list. So we click here, click there, double click blue bullet. And of course, we have to click the last one, do blue bullet last, and there it is. Okay, so there's your bullet list. All nice, organized, and they're all the same. Now, one thing I don't like about how LibreOffice handles bullets is that it tends to put too much space between the bullet character and the text. and that's a little too much. If I turn the formatting marks off, you can see it's an awful lot of space there, okay? So I like to reduce that space. Now the spacing between the bullet and the text will be found in the bullet list. So we have to go back to the bullet list style. There it is, blue bullet. We're going to right click, we're going to modify, and we're going to go to position, okay? So it's right here, tab stop and indent. They're both at 0.5, and I'd like to take them a little lower. So I'm going to spin down to maybe 0.45. And I'll do that to both. You have to do it to both. You're going to see what's going to happen there. So I click apply. It just brings them a little bit closer. I think that works a little better. Now, I might as well do that to level number 2. Just take it down 5. And level number 3. Now again, I don't have a level number 2, but just in case I do use one, it's going to be ready. Okay, so I say okay. Okay, so I think that looks much better. Okay, now, once again, the idea of using a bullet style is that you can make changes to it very quickly. For example, let's say you're doing this for a manager or you're doing it for a client. Let's say they wanted green bullets. And let's say the manual is about 75 pages with a lot of bullet lists. Okay, so all I would do is go to my character style. I would click the plus and I would right click on my blue style and I would go to modify. And just go to my font effects and let's just choose a green. Click the apply and they've all instantly changed to green. And it's just that simple. Okay, I'm going to put it back to blue and say okay. Well, and again, I can change my bullet character by going to my bullet list style and changing the character there. So again, if you have a large document with a lot of bullet lists and you need to make a change like that, it's much easier doing it through a style than trying to do it through the bullet button. Okay, so I think that's most of our formatting done. It looks pretty good. Let's do a print preview here. Even at a distance, you can see that everything is cohesive and coordinated. So the body style is all the same. You can see that our heading styles are all the same, and our bullet lists are all the same. So everything is very well coordinated. Okay, now the next thing to do, of course, is to add our pictures. Now, sprinkled throughout this document, I have some text placeholders that represent the pictures. So here's the first one. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go to my picture button, and this is the picture I want. So I'm going to double click, and it's going to drop into the paragraph. Now you notice it's in the middle of the paragraph. Now, typically your pictures go to the left margin, they go to the right margin. They don't ever go in the middle. The only time they ever go in the middle is if you're creating something like a 2-column newsletter, where you have left column and a right column, and you have a picture in the middle so the text can flow around it. Here, it doesn't make any sense, but we're going to fix that. Okay, now the first thing I want to do is make it smaller. So I'm going to double click, and the image box opens up, and this is the width and the height. Now, the first thing you have to do before you change any of these values is you have to check the keep ratio. If you don't do that, when you change one value, the other won't change. Okay, you'll get a distorted picture. So for whatever reason, LibreOffice Writer does not keep this automatically checked. So you have to do that, okay? And it'll remember that until you close the program. Okay, so if you continue working with the document the next day, you're going to have to remember to turn the ratio button on again. Okay, so I want this to be 2.5. And you can see that this one will change automatically. It looks pretty good. Now under position, I'd like it to be aligned to the right. So I'm going to go right here and click right. So right to the paragraph area. So I'm going to say OK, and there it is. Now I notice I got a little bit of white space that's part of the picture for whatever reason. And I need to get rid of that little bit of white space. So I'm going to right click, go to crop, and I'm going to crop that white space up. There, that looks good. I like that. Okay, now what I want is a blue border because I want the border to match our bullets and our heading 2 style. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to go to border and I'm going to choose my blue color. I'm going to spin this up maybe about 2, and I want a box border, and I don't want any space between the border and the picture. So I'm going to spin this down, and I'd like a little drop shadow. So I'm going to click on drop shadow and I'm going to choose a lighter gray and say OK, and there it is. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Now, because the picture is to the right, we have the text coming to the left. What would be nice if we had a little more space between the picture and the text. So I'm going to double click again, and I'm going to go to my wrap tab, and you can see the spacing options right here. So this might be a little confusing, but since the picture is to the right, where's the text? The text is on the left side of the picture. So we need to increase the left spacing. That's the left side of the picture. So I'm going to spin it up, maybe just about a 0.1, and say OK. And that just gives it a little more breathing room. Now what I did to this picture, I'd like to do to all the pictures. But I don't really want to do that repeatedly over and over and over. So when I click on the picture, you can see that on the style, I'm on the graphic style. So I want to create a graphic style that has all this. An easy way to collect all this into a style is to go to this button right here. And if I give it a click, it says New Style from Selection. I'll do that right now. I'll just call it blue. Say OK. It's under the graphics, so I'm going to modify it. I'm going to show you the problem with that. It takes the border, exactly what we want. If we go to wrap, it takes the wrapping, exactly what we want. But if we go to the type, you can see that it's locked the width and height together. So what that means is every picture that I apply the style to is going to be 2.4 by 1.37. Now that's fine if all the pictures are the same ratio. If they're the same ratio, it'll work fine. But I have some pictures that are square. So if I apply this style to the square pictures, it'll do this to them. So it's going to be a squished picture. So in this case, we can't update the style. So I'm going to cancel that. Okay, so now I've got to set this back just to the basic graphic style. So I'm going to double click on the basic graphic style right here, double click. We just get the basic style here, and I'm going to be able to remove this blue style. We don't want it because it has a fixed height and width ratio. So we're going to right click and delete it. Now I'm going to create a graphic style. This time it's going to be just the style itself, so it's not going to reference the picture. So that means it's not going to have a built-in height and width ratio. So to do that, I'm just going to right click on the graphics and go to New. Now you'll see the box says Frame Style because every picture is in a frame. Okay, so I'm going to give it the name Blue Border. And I'm going to go to Type. Now you can see by not referencing the picture, if we look at the size, it's set to auto size. Now it has some numbers here, but you can ignore those. So this is an auto sized frame. That means it doesn't interfere with the height and width ratio. And that's exactly what we want. Okay, under position for horizontal, we want to go to the right. And for the border, we want to go to blue. Okay, I'm going to spin my width up to about 2. And I want a box border. And I don't want any space between the border and the picture, so I'm going to spin this down. And I want my drop shadow, but I want it to be a lighter gray. And of course I want some space between the picture and the text. So again, this picture is going to the right, so we need to add some left spacing. So we go to the wrap area and go to the left and we spin it up. 0.1 looks pretty good. And the default wrapping, of course, is the optimal wrapping, which is perfect for what we want. And I'm going to say OK. Now all I have to do is apply my blue border style to my picture, double click, and there it is. Okay, so that one is done. Okay, let's go on to the next one. And here's another text placeholder. I'm going to select it. I'm going to insert the picture. I want that one. Now all I really need to do with the picture is to size it, because the graphic style will take care of the rest. So I'm going to double click and go to my type, and I want that to be 2.5, and I want the anchor to be to paragraph, not character. Okay, now I'm going to say OK, and all we have to do is apply our style, and that's done. Now what if we want an actual picture to go to the left margin, not just the right? Well, let's do that. So let me right click on the blue border and say New. It's going to take all the properties of the blue border right there. I'll say left. And I'm going to go to my type. And I have to tell it to go horizontal to the left. And then I have to go to the wrap. And we have to remove the left spacing because the picture now will be to the left. So we need to add some right spacing in the picture. So we have to spin the right up and say OK. Now if I wanted that to be to the left, I would double click and we get that. So now we can go left or right. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now here's another picture. There it is. I'm going to double click, just change the size. I want to anchor it to the paragraph, and I'm going to say OK, and maybe this one I'll put to the right. So I'll double click and it goes to the right. Now I've got more pictures to do, but I think you kind of get the idea. So I'm going to just proceed and speed this up. Okay, so you notice that this picture is dangling down into the margin. It can't be. Now, a paragraph can split over a page, but a picture can't split over a page. So what we have to do is move this picture to the next paragraph here. Now we can do that by cut and paste, but you could also do it by grabbing the anchor right here. So I'm going to click on the anchor and just drag it to the top of this paragraph, and it's fixed. Okay, so again, you can cut and paste pictures, and you can just drag the anchors. Now let's take a look at this through the print preview. Everything's nicely coordinated. So we have our nice body text, the bullets are all coordinated, our heading 2 styles are all coordinated, and even our pictures are all coordinated. They're all different sizes, but you'll notice they all have the same border, they all have the nice drop shadow in there, and they have proper text wrapping around them. Everything is nicely coordinated, but more importantly, everything is consistent. All the styles are consistent, so all the formatting is very consistent, which is very important. Now what I'd like to do is add one more page of content to this document. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to hit the enter, I'm going to insert that document. So I'm going to go to insert, I'm going to choose text from a file, and it's only a one-page document. It's this one right here. So I'm going to double click and it's going to be inserted into the document. Now this is something I did a lot with clients, whereas I was modifying the document, they'd be adding to it all the time. So I'd be inserting information to it all the time. So in this case, you can see that the new text that we inserted is using a different font. So it's using a Courier New font. Okay, now that's not what we want. It doesn't match our font. So I have to highlight all this. So to do that, I'm going to click in front of the A right there. I'm going to scroll down to the end, hold my shift, click right at the end. So there's my text body, double click, and now it's a text body. Okay, so now it matches the rest of the body text. Now I'm going to just delete these extra blank paragraph spaces. And now we have to work in the picture. So I'm going to double click on the picture, make that maybe 3. We want to anchor it to the paragraph. We're going to say OK. We're going to go to the graphic style, apply the blue border, and there it is. Now you can see this picture had some built-in white space in it. So we have to get rid of it. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to crop, and we'll just get rid of that. And we still retain the border. And we still retain the spacing, so it looks pretty good. Okay, so this is supposed to be a heading, so let's click on that, and let's go make it a heading 2. Let's click the drop down, let's make it heading 2, and there, now it matches the rest of the document. So that's how easy it is when using styles to add content to a pre-existing document. Again, let's do a print preview, and let's look at the whole document. There it is. So again, everything is very coordinated, but more importantly, everything is very consistent in it. Okay, I guess with multiple pages, we need to insert a footer. Now, you're probably going to say, well, why didn't you do that at the beginning when you started the document? And you're right, a footer should go in at the beginning. Now, I'm adding it at the end because by adding the footer, it's going to create another problem for us that we have to fix. So this is why I left the footer to the end. But we have to put a footer in, so let's do that now. So let's close the preview. I'm going to click in the body, and I'm going to go to Insert. I'm going to go to Header Footer. I'm going to go to Footer, Default Page Style. There it is. I'm going to click in there. There's our footer style, and it's got a little plus because there's a left or right. We don't have a left or right. So we're going to right click and say Modify. I want to go to Alignment. I want my page number to be in the center of the footer, so I'm going to click Center. I want to go to my font. I don't want the default, which is Times New Roman. I want my Verdana. So I'm going to click on Verdana. And I don't think it has to be the same size as the body, so I'm going to make it a little smaller, 9 point. And I'm going to go to my borders, and I want a nice little border on top, and I want it to be the same blue as everything else. So it's going to be nice and coordinated. So I'm going to take that blue, and I'll just make it a little bit bigger, and I'm going to click up here. I don't think I need any space, so I'm going to take that down, and I'm going to click OK. Now I'm going to type the word page, and I'm going to go to my footer tab here. I'm going to insert a page number. Now, I think what I'd like to do is take the borderline in a bit, okay? I don't think it needs to be the full width of the page. I just want to give it a little more of a style. So to do that, I'm going to go to my footer tab and go to Format Footer. And we have spacing here. So this spacing here that says spacing refers to the area between the bottom of the page and the footer. So you can move it up or down or make more room. Now what we're looking for is the left and right margin. So what I'm going to do is take the left and right in, maybe half an inch. I'm going to say apply, and it just takes it in a half inch. I think I like that better. Let's take a look at that in the print preview. I think it looks a little nicer. Now here's a problem I want to show you by inserting the footer at the end. If we look at this page, you can see that a paragraph is starting at the bottom, but with only one line, and then it breaks over here. Now likewise, this paragraph here is ending at the top of the next page. And you'll notice that in both cases, there's only one line. That is not considered proper. When a paragraph starts at the bottom of the page, it's supposed to have 2 lines. That is considered the rule. So when a paragraph breaks at the bottom of the page, there should be 2 lines. Likewise, when a paragraph ends at the top of a page, there should be 2 lines. And that's called widow and orphan control. So we're going to turn that on, and you should do that with all your documents. Now, LibreOffice Writer doesn't turn that on automatically. You have to do it yourself. Okay, so let's close preview. Okay, what I like to do is scroll down to where the problem is, so you can actually see the widow and orphan control in action. Okay, so here's the problem. So you have one line here, starting at the bottom, which is not proper, so we got to fix it. Okay, so I'm going to just click anywhere in the body. Now, this is a paragraph property, so we're going to right-click on text body, go to Modify, and we want to go to Text Flow. And you can see right here under options, orphan and widow control, and you can see 2 lines. So that is the standard, that is the rule. So you want to make sure you turn that on every time. Now, I left this specifically to the end because I need to add the footer. I knew the footer would create that problem. So by adding the footer at the end, it creates this problem, and I wanted you to show it because the widow and orphan control is often something that a lot of people forget to add to a document. So you need to add that to every document. Okay, so I'm going to click on the apply, and you can watch it jump over. So you can see what happens. It jumps over the page. Okay, so there's no 1 line here, it's 2 lines here. Now, of course, because it moved lines down here, it might have moved something else around. So we're going to say okay, and we're going to go to print preview and just make sure that other things didn't get moved around. And no, everything looks pretty good here. Okay, let's close the preview. Now, as a bonus, I'm going to show you how you can generate an instant table of contents based on your heading styles. To do that, we have to be at the top of the page. I'm going to do a Control Home to make sure I'm at the top. I'm going to go to Insert, Page Break. The blue dashed line indicates a page break. I'm going to jump to the top. We need to change this paragraph mark. Right now it's a heading 1 because that's where we did the insert of the page break. We have to change that back to the text body. Now all we have to do to insert an instant table of contents is go to Insert. We have to go down to Table and Contents. There it is, Table of Contents. Give it a click. We don't need to change anything in the box. We don't even need to type the words Table of Contents. LibreOffice will do that automatically. Now what it's going to do is read where your heading styles are, and it's going to read the page they're on. So all we have to do is click the OK, and there it is. So you can see our heading 1 style, our heading 2 styles. So again, it's associated the heading styles with the page number and created this automatically. So another major reason why you want to choose styles, particularly heading styles. Okay, let's do a print preview. Okay, so as you can see here, there's no reason not to use styles. It keeps your work consistent, and it certainly makes changes a lot easier. So that is creating a document with style by using styles. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like. I hope you can use some of this information for your documents. Now think about subscribing because we always have some interesting tutorial videos. So once again, thank you for watching, and we hope to catch you on the next video.